before the sun rose on Thursday, June 25th, 2009. Most famous performer on earth slept in a rented mansion on North Carrollwood Drive. In a few hours, the headlines would say his heart had stopped. But for those who loved him and those who watched him, the questions were only beginning. Michael Joseph Jackson had spent a lifetime outrunning gravity. Today, we retrace the last steps before the fall. He was born on August 29, 1958 in Gary, Indiana, seventh child of Joseph and Catherine. By the late 1960s, the Jackson Five were a Motown miracle. In the late 1970s, Off the Wall announced a solo force. In late November of 1982, Thriller shattered every known ceiling. He moonwalked on March 25, 1983, and the world slid backward with him. The boy from Steel Country forged an empire of sound and image and a fortress of scrutiny. To understand a final day, we must hear the lifetime that beat behind it. In early 2009, the promise was rebirthed. 50 sold-out concerts in London christened This Is It. For promoters and insurers, it was a high-wire act balanced on paperwork and expectation. For Michael, it was a vow to show the world he could still conjure wonder. Each rehearsal at the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles was a negotiation with time. Choreography sharpened, vocals tested, stamina measured. The stakes were not only artistic, they were financial, contractual, reputational. Tomorrow had a signature on it. On Wednesday, June 24th, 2009, witnesses remember a surge, energy, precision, flashes of the old electricity. The camera loved him, the crew felt hopeful. When Michael left the arena that night, the city felt newly possible. But hope, like performance, is fragile. It needs sleep. It needs peace. Insomnia had shadowed Michael for years. The official record would later say that in the hours before noon on June 25th, propofol, a powerful anesthetic, was administered in her private bedroom. The man at his side was his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. What happened in the minutes that followed would ignite a decade of debate. The emergency call arrived late enough to trouble responders and later the public. Accounts differed about when breathing failed, where chest compressions were performed, and what steps were taken first. Paramedics transported Michael to a Westwood hospital. Outside, helicopters churned the air. Inside, teams worked against the inevitable. By early afternoon, the news circled the globe. The king of pop was gone. In the first hours, grief drowned questions. Then the tide went out. The coroner's findings would list acute propofol intoxication. The official cause, homicide. The man in the room became the man in the dock. In 2011, a jury found Dr. Murray guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Legally, the narrative closed a chapter. Culturally, it opened 100 more. Long before his final day, Michael had carried the burden of unmatched fame, adoration, isolation. Relentless litigation. After the trial in 2005, he retreated, resurfaced, promised a final masterpiece. With each promise came pressure. With pressure came dependence on advisors, on contracts, on medicine, in the gears of a myth. The smallest tooth can jam the whole machine. The official story, supported by autopsy findings, is stark. A lethal dose of propofol administered in a domestic setting without adequate monitoring or safeguards. It speaks of negligence. Protocols broken, of a physician's duty unmet. It allows grief to take a simple shape. The tragedy of avoidable errors. But simple shapes can leave shadows. One theory doesn't look past the bedroom door. It argues that the story ends there, a cascade of medical misjudgments. Inappropriate drug for insomnia, lack of monitoring, delayed emergency call. Its power is its parsimony. No cabals, no secret hands, only a chain of poor choices that could not be undone. For many, this is not a theory. It is enough. Another view sees the bedroom as only the last link. In this telling, schedules were unforgiving, the stakes towering. Chris felt cornered by obligation. Those around him were cornered by expectation. Did a system built on profit turn risk into routine? Did the need for a triumphant opening night normalize a dangerous solution to sleeplessness? When the machine is this large, accountability is a hall of mirrors. There is a more audacious theory, one that refuses the coffin and reaches for the cape of illusion. It suggests the death itself was a performance. The vanishing authored by a man who had studied spectacle all his life. Supporters point to alleged sightings, to cryptic messages, to the magician's truth. The hand is quickest when the heart most wants to believe. It is a story about yearning as much as evidence. A darker suspicion peers factors into the value of a legacy. Catalogs, estates, publishing rights, these are empires unto themselves. In this theory, the artist's death simplified complications, accelerated transactions, concentrated control. Motives are drawn in numbers, opportunities, and access, yet even here, proof is the missing instrument. Whispers are not records. Some scrutinize the medical record itself, the specifics of the autopsy, the presence of vitiligo, surgical histories, searching for mismatches. They assemble collages of data points, looking for the line that will not connect. But medicine is a language of probabilities, and probability rarely speaks in absolutes. Anomalies alone do not make a map. His family called for justice. His fans built sanctuaries of memory and forums of forensic obsession. Between love and logic, a new culture grew, part investigation, part devotion, part refusal to say goodbye. In that culture, every frame is a clue, every silence a sign. Truth is a shy guest when the room is this loud. Conrad Murray's conviction for involuntary manslaughter answered a legal question and left a moral one. Was one man's negligence the whole story, or a door into a corridor of complicity? The judgment closed the case file. It did not close the debate. Rewind far enough and you find a child who learned that perfection could keep the world at bay. Fast forward and you find a man who needed rest as desperately as applause. Between those frames lies the story of an artist who turned pain into rhythm in a final night, where even rhythm could not keep him. Greatness asks a price sometimes. It demands the receipt. The official narrative gives us a medical cause. The theories offer motives, mechanisms, myths. But somewhere between the bedroom and the boardroom, between the ambulance and the archive, there is a piece we haven't heard. In the next episode, we press record on the unanswered, the contested timelines, the money trail, the alleged sightings, and the voices who say the story is not over. When the news broke that Michael Jackson had died, the world believed the story would unfold in a straight line, event, cause, consequence. But time bent the narrative. As weeks became years, theories multiplied, some born from inconsistencies, others from longing, and still others from the human need to make sense of the senseless. One of the first fractures in the official account was the timeline, according to court testimony. Dr. Conrad Murray discovered Michael not breathing sometime in the late morning, yet the emergency call to 911 was placed much later than expected. Some witnesses recalled seeing frantic movement in the house well before the call. Others noted that cardiopulmonary resuscitation, a life-saving procedure, was performed on a soft bed instead of a firm surface, a choice that baffled medical professionals. For some, these irregularities were the seeds of suspicion. Then came the matter of surveillance. Security cameras on the property reportedly recorded the comings and goings of visitors, but certain time blocks were missing from what investigators reviewed. Was this a simple technical gap, or a deliberate omission? In the absence of certainty, imagination filled the space. Financial pressure formed the spine of another theory. By 2009, Michael was facing significant debt. The This Is It concerts promised not just artistic redemption, but financial salvation. Contracts were heavy with clauses, the rehearsals under scrutiny from insurers and investors. Some believe this environment created a dangerous tolerance for risky medical solutions, a willingness to push beyond safe limits in order to keep the tour alive. In this theory, Michael's death was not a single mistake, but the culmination of systemic exploitation. Yet, the most sensational theory stepped outside the realm of tragedy entirely, that Michael Jackson never died. Within days of June 25th, reports of sightings emerged at airports, in hotel lobbies, even at an island retreat. The most famous clip showed a man, face obscured, stepping from a coroner's van into a shadowed garage. Supporters of this idea point to Michael's lifelong fascination with illusion and escape. To lyrics that speak of disappearance and reinvention, they imagine a man who chose to trade applause for anonymity, orchestrating the ultimate exit. The death believers often dissect his final public appearances. They note the precision of his last rehearsals, the seeming good health he displayed. Why, they ask, would a man capable of such performance collapse hours later? Some find meaning in the This Is It title, as if it were a farewell message to fans, but also a coded signal to those who would understand. The third cluster of theories looks to power and profit. Michael's music catalog, including valuable Beatles publishing rights, was worth billions. Control of those rights was a long-standing point of contention between him, corporate entities, and industry titans. In this narrative, his death simplified legal disputes, freed up assets, and allowed others to make financial moves impossible during his lifetime. There is no public evidence tying such motives to the events of June 25th, but absence of proof has rarely ended speculation. Some turn to the autopsy report itself, scrutinizing every detail: confirmation of vitiligo, the presence of surgical scars, the condition of internal organs. A minority claims certain findings do not match the man they knew from photographs and medical history. Could there have been a substitution? Could the body have been misidentified? These questions linger in fringe corners of the conversation, fueled by the occasional odd remark from those close to him. In the years after Dr. Murray's conviction, Michael's family expressed dissatisfaction with the verdict, insisting others were involved. His sister LaToya claimed publicly that Michael had spoken of threats against his life. His daughter Paris hinted at believing more than the official version. These statements became touchstones for those unwilling to close the book. And then there is the simplest, most human truth. Millions of fans could not accept the loss in their grief. The idea that Michael might still be alive offered comfort. It allowed them to replace the image of a lifeless body on a gurney with one of him smiling somewhere far away, free from the weight of fame. Today, more than a decade later, the theories remain alive, debated in online forums, dissected in documentaries, whispered in fan gatherings. Each theory has its own logic, its own evidence, its own believers. None has been proven beyond doubt, and perhaps that is the point. In the absence of certainty, Michael Jackson's story is a prism, every angle revealing a different color. But if we strip away the speculation, we are left with one undeniable fact. On June 25th, 2009, something ended. Whether it was the life of the man or the public chapter of it, the world felt the same silence. Maybe Michael Jackson is gone, maybe he is not. But as long as the questions remain, so does the beat.